Greetings gregarious comrades, today I'll review Slumdog Millionaire. A 2008 Oscar-winning movie directed by Danny Boyle and starring Dev Patel. This one however is pretty divisive. After scrutinizing Declan Kearns and Adam Janaway's not-so-positive reviews of the film as well as Devas, I thought, it's an Oscar winner. It can't be that bad, right? Wrong. But yep, I have to agree with them. This is unfortunately not a good film and didn't deserve its 8 Oscar awards, and they should have been penetrated toward other contenders. I mean, how can Danny Boyle go from establishing awesome movies such as Trainspotting and 28 Days Later to this enigmatic mess of a film? His directing was immaculate within those films, but this one unfortunately suffers. Average directing of his with plot conveniences and a horribly volatile tone as well. First, let's take a glimpse at the back of the film's DVD. The feel-good film of the decade. Are you seriously gonna advertise a film that emphasizes a child jumping into feces? That scene alone incentivizes me to never watch this film ever again. Prostitution, ubiquitous crime, torture, human trafficking and police brutality as the fucking feel-good movie of the decade. You fucking idiots. That'd be identical to advertising the Mortal Kombat games as some colorful, scintillated E-rated games permitted for children to play and have them willingly wanting to immerse into its world. Say what you want about Saw, but at least the writers were conscious of the fact that it's a torture movie and not a lenient choice for children to watch. This movie has no exultance and barely any hope for being a quote-unquote feel-good movie, since even a teacher abuses him with the Three Musketeers book. Then our protagonist Jamal Malik in impecunious wealth participates in the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? He flourishes with consistency to answer the first answer of who starred in a 1973 film production, but you seriously didn't have to indicate flashbacks of Jamal's childhood. That's just dragging the length of the film with filler. You could have easily cut out and eviscerated certain scenes and this film would have been about 90 minutes. After he doesn't answer the next question due to lack of knowledge, toward the $1,000 rupee note, he jabbers about the costs of multiple products and items scattered across India, somehow knowing that shit but not what he had to answer. Speaking of which, he had no knowledge of who was indicated on the $1,000 rupee note, but somehow knew who was indicated on the $100 bill, Benjamin Franklin, by indicating knowledge through his childhood for some reason. Afterwards, he's in propitious control of 1 million rupees, not a Zelda and Fire Emblem reference. Don't get me started on how the film emphasizes too much use of Dutch angles. This proliferates to the level of Battlefield Earth unfortunately, or the erratic shaky cam during chase sequences. The primary instances of this being when Jamal participates in the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Or the interrogation scene. Speaking of interrogation, the police officers assaulting Jamal in a virulent are fucking horrible cops and need to get fired now for perforating shit too far and assaulted and tortured a guy they allege of cheating over actual perps such as rapists, murderers, embezzlers, mafia bosses, etc. They're so fucking terrible that they make Curtis Stryker from Mortal Kombat look like Alex Murphy from RoboCop. The tone is incredibly knavish and malevolent. Throughout, the instances are Jamal's anguish throughout his childhood, being abused and treated like shit by everyone he approaches, and the aforementioned torture scenes. It's an understandable method for character development, but pugnacious behavior toward another and emphasizing this throughout isn't the way to go, since it'll only inundate and turn people away. The portrayal of India within the film is just mendacious and incoherent, with the movie being unintentionally racist as well. This is because it primarily establishes India as this horribly corrupt, crime-ridden dystopian environment where everyone will excoriate you and treat you like shit. RoboCop and Dredd did it better. The reason why I mention those two is the fact that Dredd and RoboCop are corroborated as a satirization of crime and violence in America, and it's especially aged in a coherent manner when you consider crime rates in populated cities such as Los Angeles and Chicago. This movie does a decent job at poverty and overpopulation, but that's not interpreting much. Those aspects alone wouldn't incentivize you to question India's vitriolic, justified hatred toward the movie. The fact that this movie was established by a British guy only exacerbates its reputation, and it's incredibly ironic for a British guy to direct a movie about an Indian participating in an Indian version identical to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, inherited their notoriety for annexing Indian territory in the past because they were rich and opulent as fuck with no derelict wealth. They also colonized the original 13 American colonies, before it inaugurated to the American nation obviously, and utilized Australian land as a prison. I know this is extraneous to criticizing the film, but I just want to mention something with a ton of essence in geographical history. Now, was there anything to feel prestige and positivity toward for this movie? Well, the acting has prestige of vigor with genuinely strong performances from Dev Patel. The dialogue is also really good despite the horrible tone of the film. The score of the film is really good and immaculate. Despite an incoherent tone, the character development of Jamal is great, and him attempting to reconcile with the love of his life is a cordial moment of occurrence despite the inconsistency with the tone, since it can't decide whether it wants to be a crime drama film or a film about a protagonist seeking to approach the love of his life. Altogether, one of the worst experiences I've ever felt anguish upon, and a movie I almost felt nauseous toward and vomited. It's yet another film I refuse to rewatch. This movie didn't deserve to triumph in its 8 Oscars because of the aforementioned issues. It's not the worst movie of 2008, but it's easily the most overrated. Hell, even The Dark Knight was more significant of receiving a Best Picture nomination over this malevolent and horrible movie. I'm gonna perforate a rating of 2.5/10, D, and I'm gonna say on it 1. Unfortunately, this movie's not even the innocuous type of mean-spirited much identical to Tom and Jerry or some Looney Tunes segments. This is an extreme type, not to mention the awful pacing of this film or the predictability of Jamal getting all of the answers right. See you later, bye.